In some near-death experiences, we hear tales that are short, the details are kind of muddled, and you're not exactly sure what is being experienced. On the other hand, sometimes we get an NDE that is incredibly long and detailed and full of information, not only for the person who's experiencing, but those of us here in the physical world. That's the kind we have today. We have an interview with Bill Tortorella, and in this interview, it moves beyond his personal story and it moves into the category of showing us what we can anticipate as a future for the species, a future for this world. That doesn't happen that often, so this is a really valuable NDE to add to the archives. We are being shown the past, the present, and the future options that are out there for those of us who live in the physical world. There's some key stories that I'd love for you to listen to. First off, the life review. It's really interesting how it happens and what's being shown to him. There's a new thing that's happened. It's called the Hall of Events. Now, this is new language that we haven't heard before, but I think you'll find it fascinating. There's also the difference between the roles of guardian beings and those of angels. That, I think, will pique your interest. And those angels, they give us the 9 principles of enlightenment. And those principles, I think, are worthy of taking to heart. And the last thing that you're going to be interested in is the role of numbers in the physical world. It's something I haven't heard before, and I think it lends a nice twist to numerology and life paths. So here is Bill's here's his bio. Bill Tortorella speaks about one man's experience of traveling beyond this world into the light of God. During Bill's near-death experience in 1994, the light he was in and the love within it revealed to him the answers of all humanity from 3 guardian beings and a panel of angels, which gave him the 9 principles of management. These principles, if implemented, can change our world forever. I hope you enjoy Bill's interview. Bill, it is such a pleasure to have you on the Afterlife Files. We have been really looking forward to this time together. So, welcome.
Nice to meet you, Scott. It's nice to be here.
And, you know, the way that we kick things off is telling a story. So, why don't you tell us about what happened to you during your near-death experience?
Okay, I'll give you a little run up to that. On the way to work one day, I'm listening to the radio show. And on WNBC, they have a advertisement comes on that WNBC Radio is holding the 50th anniversary for the radio station. And it's for the brand new John Lloyd Webber, Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh, my,
play.
Yes. Okay.
And I went home that night. My wheels were spinning. I had this idea. I already seen Jesus standing 7 foot tall and on the bottom of a mountain. The top of the mountain behind him had a burning village with hundreds of people walking down the mountain and reaching up to Jesus in praise for his love. In the morning, I ran to the lumber yard. I got 2 4x8 plywood boards. I got 3 hinges because it was supposed to be set up like a card, and the inside was supposed to be a birthday card for WNBC, but the outside was for the play Jesus Christ Superstar. So this was the Jesus Christ Superstar Card Contest, not knowing that there were going to be 250,000 contestants that placed their cards into WNBC. When we dropped them off in New York, there was a big ballroom, and the lady said, just drop it off right in the middle, stand that up, because it was on plywood boards, don't forget, and it opened and closed. So I stood it up right in the middle. And the second time I was there, on the night they called me up 2 months later, that we won. So I won that, and that was a beautiful experience. And it was just a great feeling because we got to go see the play, and we had front row and in the orchestra. It was magnificent. Got to get backstage passes too. Got to meet the actors like Ben Vereen and everything. It was pretty incredible. And
Well,
now I'm going to fast
congratulations.
forward.
That's great.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going to fast forward to 1994. I'm in a different field at this time. I have my own business, and I'm doing trade shows all over the country. I do this big show in Tucson, Arizona every year. It's called the Gem and Lapidary Show. And it's a big show because people from all over the world come. Actually, the convention center is filled, and all the ballrooms in the whole city are filled with vendors.
Oh my, that's a huge show.
Yeah, and it's February. So, in February, Scott, what happens, there's a lot of cold and flus running around. So every year, I've done this show for years already. Every year, there's sicknesses going on. But this year, something bad was running on. The first day we got there, people were coughing. So somebody had brought things in. Prior to the show opening up, it took us 2 days to set up. By the third day of the show, the lady across the way from us was coughing from the first day. She just collapsed to the floor.
Ooh.
In my interim, I moved to Miami from Brooklyn, New York. In my earlier years in life, I became a paramedic. So I had paramedic skills behind me. So when I saw her fall to the floor, I ran right away over to try to at least make her comfortable, make sure she had airway and she was breathing right. So I did, but when I placed her in my lap, I picked her up just to make sure her airway was straight and her head was tilted back so she could breathe properly. I felt the heat come out of her body. Like I've never felt a fever like this before. And I felt a lot of fevers, especially being a paramedic for years in Miami. So we went about our day. We were doing strong business. It was the first, couple of days of the show, and it was going well. And that night, I start to get ill. By the next day, I'm burning up in the morning. But I still say I got to go into work. I could hardly talk. My throat was all swollen up. I was coughing. I could hardly breathe. It was a very bad, bad virus or bacterial. We didn't know what it was at the time. As soon as the people I have working for me took a look at me, they said, Bill, you got to go get out of here, go to the doctor or the hospital or something. So I remember getting into a taxi cab, going down to the hospital, and it was filled. The emergency room was filled with people. And someone was standing at the door and said, if you don't mind going to they had medical centers set up all over town because there's so many people that come to this show. During the show, don't forget, there's people from all over the world that come because it's a once a year thing for gemstones and raw cut stones, as well as jewelry. So we get to this. I agreed to go, and because I wanted to be seen right away. So I went to medical center. They put me right on a gurney. They tested me all out. Don't forget, I know a lot about what they're doing to me because I was a paramedic through the earlier years and when we moved to Miami. And they fill me up with IV starts to run, and now they come by and they're injecting fluids. They hook me up with oxygen, and they're keep injecting things in my IV, and I'm wondering what they're putting extra electrolytes in my IV, and then they come over and they're injecting antibiotics. So, like I said, they didn't know if it was bacterial or viral at the time. So they were covering all bases. They put antibiotics in. So I was there the whole day, the whole day. I must have went through 3 bags of IV fluid. By that time, they said they got my oxygen levels back up, that I could breathe pretty good, and that I had antibiotics in me. So they gave me an inhaler. They gave me a little bottle of antibiotics, and they said, listen, if you wake up in the morning, because the medical, the medical, they're not hospitals. The medical centers where you go for daily visits, they close. So I think they closed at 7 when they sent us home. Not home. I went back to my hotel. So I remember I think I dozed off for a while, but I woke up because I had to take a pill. And I think I just got up to go to the bathroom. So it was about 12 o'clock. That's the last thing I remember, was taking that antibiotic. My next thing that I remember, that night turned into a night of light and love. It was beautiful, Scott. It was magnificent. I remember, actually, I could see it today exactly how I left my body. I left my body through my eyes in this beautiful glowing mist. It was basically like the color of a fern in spring. It was like life itself. And if you magnify that fern in spring 100 times, it wouldn't be the beauty that it was. But now I'm completely detached from my body, floating above my body, looking down upon myself. At the beginning of that, I recognized still that it was my body. By the time I was around and floating for, I'd say, less than a minute of my time in that field, I was already feeling this enormous love. I was feeling this unbelievable feeling of love. And then I know this from a lot of other people that had NDEs and my own, that when the spirit realizes that that body has no life in it, what happened to me was this beautiful beam of light came from behind and lit everything up underneath me. I no longer recognized that body anymore. I didn't know, I didn't even remember it, let alone recognize it. So I'm physically in this mist of love. It's magnificent. And this light draws me right in to this magnificent tunnel. I'm in this beautiful tunnel of light. It's so beautiful. I can't explain how the beauty of it was. But I'm feeling free. I'm feeling love. And the only thing I actually feel is love and protected. So I feel completely loved and protected, but now I'm moving, and I'm moving faster and faster. And the speed is moving so fast, it actually feels like I'm moving at the speed of light. But don't forget, I'm pure energy at this time. There's no body anymore. I'm complete energy, but full of knowledge. Like I even felt like my knowledge was increasing. I don't know how and why. I just feel like my knowledge was increasing. And I remember my arrival. I'll never forget this. I'll never forget my arrival. When I arrived in heaven, and I believe in heaven because I believe in God, I feel family, friends all around me. But don't forget, not in physical form, in spirit form. They're beautiful beams of light. I hear discussions going on. And then for the first time, and I'm speaking out loud to myself, I'm home. I'm finally home. I'm ecstatic. I'm hearing other voices, and I'm home. I'm having a good time. And it's the beauty of it is so wonderful. You could feel it. I could feel it as I talk now, today. All of a sudden, I hear a soft voice in my ear. Yes, Bill, you're home. My name is Antonia. I am one of your guides, and you're home in the light of God. and I'm one of your three guides. You have two others. You have Peter and you have Oren as your guides as well. I'm just ecstatic now because now I'm communicating directly, Scott. It was unbelievable at this time. The next thing I know, I see this beautiful beam of light approaching me. And as he gets close, I hear him say, "Hello, Billy." And when he said, "Hello, Billy," that voice was my brother's. Whether God put my brother's voice in that spirit at the time, or that was my physical brother, I felt it as my physical brother. That's what I felt. And I'm communicating now with my brother. The embrace was just beautiful. And that embrace was loving. It was just nothing but love. Because we are love. We turn into love. And there's so much knowledge that we take in while we're there. You know, they say we use, I don't know, 6 or 7% of our brain while we're here on Earth. But when we're on the other side, I think we have the capability, because first of all, everything's telepathy on that side. And this love that you feel, you become the love itself. So you're all one ball love. You're all interconnected with the other beings, and that is magnificent. But I remember Peter stating that we had to leave now. And I remember them whisking me off. It was Peter and Antonia at this time. And we come to this beautiful area, and all of a sudden, it's like this magnificent screen opened in front of me that was just flickering, like a screen. I can't explain it. It's in between a computer and the way you used to look at old movies when at the end the reel was over and it would flicker, flicker, flicker. That's exactly what would happen. And it was flickering, flickering. And now they start showing me. They're showing me myself. This is the first time I remember myself. The first time I'm seeing myself back in my body. I'm still in spirit, but I see myself in my body and actually feel myself in my body. And we're all standing there, the three spirits in physical form, while we're watching these clips of myself. And then they start out when I'm doing all good things in my life. They're showing all the good, the good. They're showing when I was a little boy, and I told you my mom and dad owned the bar, and the beautiful thing about the Dodgers being in there, sometimes during the week, she would take me in when some of the players were in, and I'd bring a couple of my little friends with me, and they would enjoy. We were really young at the time. We were only about 5 or 6, you know, but sometimes I'd take 1 or 2 friends with me, and we get our ball signed to be all excited and everything. It was just wonderful because she was the cook for the whole area there. People used to come from all over to eat a cookie. And that was just beautiful memory. So they showed me the good, and then they showed me all the things I've done when I was a paramedic, when I was older, when I was still in my young years in Miami in 73. Because in 73, when I moved to Miami, I left New York, I graduated New York, I was working on Madison Avenue for a big company called Benton and Bowles. But in 1973, I got married. Me and my wife moved to Miami, Florida. And then when I got down there, I come to find out there's no ad agencies. Miami Beach is big, big for the tourists, the hotels and everything. But the city of Miami itself had like 4 big buildings, and that was it. And nowadays it has a whole skyline. So it's a big city now. It has, I'm sure it has advertising agencies, but back then it didn't. And thank God my wife got a job right away. So I wound up becoming a paramedic. So I'm in the field, going to school. At the same time I'm going to medical school, I'm actually working as an attendant on the unit with the paramedic and the driver. That's how they took you on back in the old days. You actually learned on the job as well as going to medical school, because I went to Mount Sinai Medical School at night. And after you get your certificates, then you're the paramedic in the unit, and that's how that works. But they take me to a few, we only did good on that job, and they showed more one thing after the other. But there's this one I remember. I remember this one scene. We were in our unit. We just picked it up downtown Miami. We were stationed in North Miami Beach. We're heading up on I-95. And all of a sudden, a call comes over the radio. And we're about on 95th Street, 95. It's a 317 comes over. That means anything with a 3 in front of it was an emergency. And 17 meant it was some kind of car accident or motorcycle accident or something. So I picked up the radio right away because they were calling our other unit that was about 10 minutes from there. And we were we were less than 2 minute ETA. We're on 95th Street. By the time I picked up the unit, started talking to them, we're on 110th Street. The accident was on 135th Street and 995 North. So we were on even the lane. So we were there probably a minute and a quarter. And we got there, and there's this young man running around. Then he sat down. I grabbed the bag, and I thought he was hurt because I saw a little blood on his face. But these were the days when nobody wore seatbelts. Back then in the early 70s, no one wore seatbelts. So the both of them hit the windshield. But what happened is we ran over to the young man thinking he was hurt, and he just pointed this way, and he said, my sister, my sister. And we both looked over, and we saw his sister's head had gone through the windshield.
Oh,
so
man.
my partner, Danny, and I ran right over to the car. We had seconds to assess because we could have waited for a fire truck to come because they had the cutters, where they cut away the windshield. You bring part of the windshield in with you. But Danny, I look and said, she's bleeding to death. We would have had no time. So I went outside the unit and I picked the top of her head up and placed it into Danny's hands on top of her head. And then I jumped in front with him and we slowly pulled her out, put her on the stretcher, ran her right over to the unit. Her brother came in the back with me. Danny is the driver. He's up front. So it's only me and Danny in this unit. And we're buzzing to Parkway General Hospital. And all of a sudden, I got gauze pads in my hand. I'm holding down on top of her head, trying to stop the bleeding. All of a sudden, she starts to seize. So her body's jumping up and down. I can't control her. So I turn over to the brother. I point at calling to the brother, God help me, I said to him. When I said that on my life review, I saw Peter's hand come in on top of my hand, on her head, exactly at the same time. It looked like it was happening then, there. And we were in my life review, but then I didn't see that when it actually happened in life, but in the life review, that was shown to me. And that was just beautiful. We got to Parkway, dropped her off, spent the whole day thinking about her because I'm an emotional empathic person. I feel other people's pain sometimes, and the guys in the station always used to tell me, Bill, don't bring your work home with you. Don't bring your work home with you. That was bringing your work home, worried about, other people. But me, I had some kind of feelings for them. Anyway, I was thinking about it all day. Next morning at 5 o'clock, because we had to bring the unit back by 6:30, I woke my partner up an hour early. And I said, Danny, we got to go. And he looks at me and he said, is it 6 already? I say, no, we got to go to Parkway. I got to find out what happened to that girl. Now, I've been working for years together. He looks at me like I'm some kind of crazy person. He said, Bill, she's dead. I said, Danny, we have to go. He got up, to put his shoes on. He was angry, but he says, okay, let's go. It's miles out of the way and miles back, so it's going to take us an extra long time. We got to Parkway. I see this nurse I know. We know all the nurses in the ER. This nurse, Becky, says, I looked at her. I said, what happened to the girl that we brought in yesterday that they carted right off to surgery? She says, you want to meet her? And the thrills just came right through my spine. And I tell this story all the time, and my hair stands up on my arm just like it is now. And it's incredible. She brought us up to the room she was in. The girl's sitting up in bed. She's all wrapped up, a big turban on her head. It looks like her whole head is free, but There was only tiny scratches on her face. So I said, thank God it's in her hairline. Thank God. But me and Danny were thinking that was in her skull. There's glass all the way up to the back of her skull yesterday, back to here. She was never, she never had a fracture, but there was so much blood you couldn't see. She was so fortunate. She was scalped. So basically, just the top part of her head was back. And when I was holding down, but I couldn't tell because all you see is I don't want to discuss what you actually see, but you see fatty tissue and blood, basically. Bottom line, simple. Keep it simple like that. She's smiling. She don't know who we are. The brother's sleeping in the corner, wakes up. That's the man that saved your life. And oh boy, everybody was ecstatic. That felt as good. So that was good, good, good. Then they turn it on you. Now they turn it on you and show you the dark side, the negative side, the bad things that you've done in life. And, as growing up as teenagers, I think everyone does stupid things, including myself, that I felt bad for. They show you one thing after the other, and you actually start feeling them. You feel the emotion you put. You feel different things in different situations. You feel
You're talking
pain
about feeling the emotions of the other person.
of the other person. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're feeling the emotions of the other person. Well, they took me to a time when I feel I hurt someone terribly. It was my ex-wife, my first wife, and my son. I had a little boy that's 2 years old. And back in the old days, we all got married when we were really young. I was just turned 20 years old when I got married. And I just think in some cases, some people like myself, I call them the young and dumb days.
Yeah.
But anyway, when they showed me that part, I not only saw their pain, I became their pain. That's exactly how bad it was for me in my life review. I felt the agony. I felt the pain like I've never felt pain in my life. I felt pain. It was hard. It was physically hard for me. In my life review, it was felt physically hard for me to take this. And then they showed me a couple of the wrong things. And I just remember screaming, I'm sorry, God, forgive me. When I said, God, forgive me, all the grayness dropped. I'll never forget this next part. Now we're standing in spirit again, no longer body form. And they said, and Tony, I think, said, you did well, Bill. And she said to me, Bill, look at yourself. And Peter was, even though you can't see a smile on the face, you could feel the smile. And Peter was smiling. And I was like them. I was a beam now. Now I'm a beam like everyone else was, these beautiful beams of light. I was this free floating mist for a while. But now I turned into looking exactly like them. I'm full. I'm full. God. In my heart, I feel nothing but God and love. And now I'm picking up this knowledge that's uncanny. And they're helping with the knowledge. And then my third guardian appears in a bright light. He's walking towards me. And as he's walking towards me, I know this person. And Peter had said, Bill, this is Oren, your third guardian. And I knew Oren before he even said anything to me. The reason why I know Oren, because Oren was my intuition. I believe Oren was with me my whole life. He's been with me. He's been with me through my crusades in life, through my travels all around the world. He's got me out of situations, tough situations sometimes, and things that happened in my life. One thing that happened one time, I was on a business trip in Thailand, buying merchandise, but at the same time making it a little trip for my ex-wife and myself. And we physically got kidnapped over there. We were taken.
Oh
And
dear.
that's in my book. If anybody wants to read it, it's an interesting story. But all I could say with that, As Peter's hand came in on the lady's head, I had help to get out of that situation because there was no way we were getting out of that situation alive. There was no way. Even my ex-wife was flabbergasted. We both were a nervous wreck for weeks afterwards, but we got out of that night, of that situation. We were kept the whole day, but we got out. When we got out, we went directly to the airport. I had to buy tickets for almost $4,000 just to fly out of the country, and $4,000 back in the 80s. This is 80, uh, 88, 1988, because they had this Olympics in Seoul, Korea, because we went to Korea, Hong Kong, China, and our last stop was in Thailand where this happened. Okay, so that's what I mean. You physically feel these things, and it's important to understand that we have guides that are with us our whole lifetime. When Oren comes, like I said, he's my intuition. He's the one that told me when I was in China, and I was in Red China at the time. It was deeply communist China at the time. You had to have people watching you all the time there. And I felt completely comfortable there. But when we landed, from the point we landed in Thailand, something told me, this is in real life I'm talking about, something told me something was wrong. And all the way to my hotel, I just felt this black cloud all over me. And something was telling me, and that I believe was Ord. He was my third guardian, letting me know that we were in for a danger of some kind. Oren says to me, we're moving to a next place, plateau, whatever. He called it the Hall of Events. Other people might know this as Akasha Records or something like this. This was the most amazing part because this is felt like a crystal auditorium where the universe was reflecting light off the crystal. It was so unbelievably beautiful. It was unimaginable. I was just in awe of being there. And the beauty of it is now they're showing me not my life. They're showing me the past, the world's present, the world's future. They bring me back to a time when I wasn't even there. Scott, I never was in World War II, but I somehow was brought back to that time frame. I don't know why. Now I have family that was there. I have family that was in Korea as well. Mm-hmm. And they brought me back to a time. And sometimes I ask myself now, due to incarnations, was I there? I don't know. But they brought me back there for a reason. And still today, I don't know why I was showing that. But they brought me right up to my birth. I saw my birth physically happening. I physically saw my birth happening in that time frame. But now they start showing me everything that happens more in the world, not myself. So it's going, and it's acting the same way it's acting just like the life review with the flickering of the screen and then stop, and we're there. We're all there. We're all in full. This is the only time I've seen myself as a body was in the life review and the Hall of Events. It would stop. I remember it stopped. I'm sitting down in my classroom, and it's 1960. I think it was 61 or 63 when JFK died.
Yep,
when he got
63.
shot. 63. It was in November 63, right?
Right.
And yeah, I remember the principal came over the loudspeaker and said John F. Kennedy was just shot in Dallas, Texas. And I remember the whole class being very somber, and the school was released for the day. And I don't know what grade I was in 63. I was 11 years old, so I might have been in the fifth or sixth grade or whatever. Anyway, we all walked home from school. I got home. My mother was on the table. She was crying. The lady she had working for us, Christine, was a I call her my black mom. She's the one who helped raise me because my mother used to cook with these 40-gallon, I don't know how big they were. They were gigantic pots. So she started cooking at home in the morning and walked down 4 flights of stairs by herself with these pots that must have weighed at least 80, 90 pounds by the time they were filled with all kinds of stews and meats and all kinds of different, main dishes she made for lunch and things like that. And Christine was a person that helped raise me. But there was always singing going on in my home, always singing. Because my mother used to sing with the big bands. And Tommy Dorsey one time, she sang with. I don't know, people will remember that nowadays. And Christine, when she sang, she sounded like Diana Ross in Lady Sings the Blues. I mean, it was just a lot of singing going on. It was magnificent. So from there, they take me down. We're back in the flickering screen again, and it's moving. And we're moving and moving. And we're moving past my birth. My death, my NDE. We're moving physically past the NDE. So I see myself die on the bed, but we keep moving. It just slows down there. We keep moving. We don't stop. We're moving, and then we stop. And that's when I'm in front of the towers. I'm in front of the towers in New York City, the Twin Towers. I'll never forget this. And I see these buildings collapsing, and I'm running and running. I'm saying I go to run, and Orrin Peter reaches out to me and said, "Bill, you can't do anything." They say, "This is not your time." They meant, "This is not the time." They said, "Bill, this is your future." And I didn't quite comprehend that. I couldn't comprehend that because don't forget, I come from New York City. So a lot of my friends went off to Wall Street and worked. And quite a few of my friends worked in the towers at the time. So I had this instinct to run. Basically, I hope it was run to try to help them. I hope it wasn't run to try to run away from the rubble. But they said, "Bill, nothing could hurt you here." And then all this black cloud was there, this black smoke. And they said, "What do you see, Bill?" I said, "I see everything." And I said, "What do you feel, Bill?" I said, "I don't feel anything, but I see everything." It's amazing because we could all see everything that was going around, people running frantically and like bumping into each other. It was craziness. And the next thing, it takes the screen starts again, and we're moving again, and we're moving fast again and fast. The next time it stops, I believe it stops, I believe this stop must have been Baghdad, because this was the time that they bombed Baghdad. There was bombs going off all around. And I remember instinctively running again because one blew up next to me. I instinctively run and said, "Remember, Bill, you don't have to run here." And then I was wise to that. So I didn't. But I remember being there because of the way, and I believe it was Baghdad because of the way people were dressed. That's the only way I could see, and the structure of the buildings. So now we're screening again. The screen is moving faster and faster and faster, and I believe it stopped now. These are the times we're in right now. I've seen this happen. I've seen this happen very clearly. In the next stage, in the final stage, I'm going to tell you exactly how it happened.
I hope you enjoyed part one of this interview. In part two, we're going to see Bill describe his meeting with the panel of angels and the gift that they gave to him that includes the 9 principles of enlightenment. So you're going to stick around for that. And also, after that, they tell us about how numbers help rule the physical universe. So, off to part two.